Good afternoon everyone and welcome back to the Warhammer 3 news. I'm COLONELDAMNEDERS and as you can see, I'm not in the newsroom anymore. I'm in fact on holiday, but that doesn't stop me from bringing you another piece of breaking Warhammer 3 news. Today we have the faction mechanics of Kairos Fateweaver. Now earlier we learned the faction mechanics of the general Siege factions, but now we're learning about this legendary lord in particular. So let's waste no more time and dive right in. As usual, each legendary lord gets two sets of effects. We have the faction effects. These are things that affect the entire faction and are normally things like discounts for certain units and buildings, or buffs for certain areas of the campaign. They also have lord effects. These are normally more localized to the lord or their army, and are normally things such as buffs for certain units or special abilities for the lord. Apparently all Warhammer 3 lords are going to be more complex than Warhammer 2 lords were on launch, and somewhere between those and the most complex of the Warhammer 2 DLC lords. So apparently we're not going to get more complicated on launch, but that's not to say we won't in future DLCs and DLCs. This is probably to keep the game more approachable to new players. We also get a small tease that Warhammer 3's standard campaign rules are going to be more in-depth than Warhammer 2's, so there's lots to be excited for there, and be sure to subscribe if you want to see that covered right here on the channel. Also, one final disclaimer, any and all values seen here are of course subject to change between now and when the game releases early next year. So finally we get to Kairos' faction mechanics. His first one is a plus 100% to enemy reinforcement time prediction. Now this is part of the new battle reinforcement system coming in Warhammer 3. No longer will you clump up 4 armies and instantly have all of those units on the field as soon as the battle begins. Now there is a timer before reinforcements can enter the battlefield, and this value is determined by a variety of factors. This does mean that if you are aggressive enough and attack the initial army and wipe it out completely, you can win the battle before you ever have to even think about facing some of those scary reinforcements. This does also mean you won't be able to walk a massive army up behind a smaller one and instantly win just because the smaller army has the big army stood behind it. You will actually need to fight and survive with that smaller army before the big reinforcements get there. I don't know how exactly this is going to factor into auto-resolve, but I'm sure the devs have thought it through. Now you can also choose the exact location of your reinforcements, but changing it from the default will result in the reinforcements taking a longer time to get there to allow them to reposition. Lightning Strike is also getting changed, so it's not instantly the most bullshit thing in the entire world. It is now a 3-tiered skill, with the first 2 skills simply extending the amount of time it takes for enemy reinforcements to get there, and of course the 3rd skill granting you the Lightning Strike battles that we all know and love. So with all that being said and explained, what this mechanic does is basically allows you to know exactly when the enemy reinforcements are going to arrive, which can be very powerful indeed. He also gets minus 50% to his battle reinforcement time. This basically means your reinforcements will get there in half the time of anyone else's. And finally, a plus 15% to hero action success chance for all heroes. This one doesn't really need any explaining, but we do however learn what the 2 heroes on the Siege roster will be capable of on the campaign map. The iridescent horrors can assault garrisons, assassinate, and assault enemy units. However, the Cultists of Siege can damage walls, wound enemy characters, and hinder replenishment. Now for Kairos' Lord effects. First things first, he can unlock 8 different items which allow him to utilise different laws of magic alongside his own Law of Siege. These items are unlocked via a unique skill tree that is unlocked as soon as he reaches rank 11, and there are no rules as to which law you have to get first, so you can instantly go for your favourite, or most likely the most powerful ones, as soon as you want. Once you unlock these fragments, you have to equip them into Kairos' arcane item slot, and boom, you have the spells available to you. There are a few caveats to this. You only unlock 2 of the spells from each law, and those 2 spells will replace 2 spells from the Law of Siege. Now it does actually tell us which spells you get in and which spells they're replacing, but it takes me far too long to read all of them out, so I'll show that on screen now. But what all this boils down to is that taking these extra laws can be useful in the right situation, so you need to be constantly checking your items to make sure you have the best possible deck going into each battle. Small side note here, but since we can see a skill tree, we can actually see a few of the other skills aside from these fragments and make some educated guesses as to what each one of them is going to do in the campaign. We of course have the Route March line with what looks to be talents for Grimoire generation, control/public order, ambushing, recruitment, lightning strike, and I would guess some sort of cost reduction. The Red Tree of course has buffs for all areas of the army, as well as an ability at that halfway point. We of course have the fragments we've just talked about, the Law of Siege line for all those spells, some buffs and abilities for Kairos himself, and of course the top row for anything miscellaneous. And one more final thing, there's now a quest tab along the top of this menu. This might be something specific to Kairos himself, or possibly the starting campaign before we get the Mortal Empires 2. Alternatively, it could be a new menu where you can view quests for that specific lord, rather than them all being viewed in one place. That being said, I do hope they don't totally get rid of being able to view them all in one place, because it did make it really simple to see every single mission that you can attempt at the moment. Anyway, his other army effects are a minus 50% to enemy hero action success chance against the army, and a plus 50% to ambush defense chance for his army. These two don't really need any explanation, but what they do add up to is one army that is incredibly difficult to take out, and you're going to have to fight him on fair terms. And finally, we get a quick glimpse at starting conditions. Of course, we don't see anything of the actual campaign map, but we do of course learn that he's starting on the borders of Cathay. He's in control of the capital of a region, and 2 settlements in that region are under the control of a Warriors of Chaos faction known as the Kazag, and the other settlement is under the control of a minor Cathayan faction known as the Imperial Wardens. Now, you don't start at war with Kazag, and you can choose to take their settlements through the traditional method. Alternatively, you can use the Changing of the Ways, which is a mechanic we learned about in the Siege mechanics a few weeks ago, and this will allow you to take all their settlements by turn 2 apparently. Of course, the Cathayans will require some more traditional persuasion to vacate their lands. On the other side of you to this, you have a minor Khorne faction known as the Carneth Sons, and beyond them some more followers of Tzeentch known as the Flaming Scribes. And between all those, there's a few other natives of these dark, chaotic wastelands. Now, you'll of course be directed to go straight towards attacking Cathay by the tutorial, and of course the quest lines, and of course the right there CMA as well. But that doesn't mean you need to do it right out the gate. You can spend some time subjugating other Warriors of Chaos factions, fighting with other Chaos to grind levels, fighting with minor Cathayan factions to grind some levels before attacking these very heavily defended settlements. Now, to the west of your starting location, there are the rest of the Chaos Wastes, and at the edge of that you'll probably find Kislev, most likely fighting against Khorne. However, if you head to the south, you'll find mountains, and this may lead you to a more sneaky route into Cathayan lands if you don't feel like knocking on the door of the Great Bastion. And finally, we learn what his starting army is made up of. It's himself, 3 Blue Horrors, 2 Screamers, and 1 unit of Furies. Now, this certainly isn't the strongest starting army we've ever seen, but it is incredibly agile, and with the Barrier of Tzeentch, you'd be surprised how much damage this thing can do. And that just about wraps up everything we know now on Kairos Fateweaver, his faction mechanics, his starting location, and of course his starting army. Let me know in the comments down below what exactly you think of these faction mechanics. Are you excited to play as Kairos? Are you going to be queuing up on day 1 as soon as the game releases early next year to play him? Let me know in the comments below. Leave a like if you did, and if you want to see more Warhammer 3 news, then be sure to subscribe to the channel because I'm going to be covering every single thing that comes out in the build up to release early next year. And of course, once the game does come out, there's going to be a massive amount of videos coming out then, so definitely be sure to subscribe for that. If you enjoy the show and want to support it, then head on over to COLONELDAMNEDERS.store for all sorts of merch designs on a variety of products for any occasion. Also, consider supporting the channel here on YouTube memberships, on Patreon, or over on Twitch. Doing so can get you shout-outs like It's Your Boy LC for their wonderful support at That Unclean One Steer. Thank you to all supporters, and thank you all for watching, and for now, I've been COLONELDAMNEDERS, and I will see you next turn.